Whoa, good evening, everybody, and welcome back. That's right. Welcome back to the vaunted Talking Philly Sports with Matty B here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B on this Monday, March the 4th, 2024, a mere 4 days away. Well, actually less than 4 days away from the start of the 2024 baseball season, and I could not be more happier to be here tonight, to be the purveyor of that if you did not know. That was coming up. But yeah, it is a great time of the year. It's funny, too, because I know it's not been summer-like around here, and it's not been spring-like either. But listen, it could be worse. You could be living about 3 hours to the northeast of here, where they got knocked out with about a foot of snow over the weekend. So we got to count our blessings when we can get them. But it is that time of the year. We are going to have baseball at some form, regular season baseball this week. Weather doesn't look too good for opening day Thursday, but baseball is going to be back, and I am happy than a clam. Well, I don't know how happy a clam is, but I'm happy. I'm happy to be part of that, and of course, you know this, and if you don't, I'm about to tell you this. One of the reasons why I'm so happy is that I will be back with the Fightin's Final for year 3. That's right, our post-game show, our Phillies post-game show that no matter what time of the day, no matter what day of the week or what summer holiday it might fall on, we will always be there. And we are entering our 3rd year of always being there. And let's kind of give you guys a little bit of a peek there. Here's how we're going to break and christen in the new season. Myself and Al will take you on Thursday for the home opener. Godspeed if we have one. Let's pray that we do. Saturday will be Al solo, and then on Sunday it's Mike that kick us off in 2024 as it has arrived, the baseball season. So tonight you would expect, and you should very rightfully expect, that this is going to be heavy baseball. I'm feeling happy and free to be able to talk about heavy baseball because, frankly, I'm sick of talking about the Eagles. It is friggin' March 24th. It's March 24th. I'm giving them a break. They deserve it. They caused enough pain. They need to take a break. So if you're looking for Eagles talk tonight from me, unfortunately, folks, you're not going to get it. But never fear, because there is a bunch of that on this network. Matter of fact, that's all there really seems to be anymore on this network is Eagles Talk. Party on Broad will follow me at 9 o'clock. So jump on the Homer train with the boys from Party on Broad if you want to speak some Eagles. But, of course, if you want to mention Eagles, there are some comments in there, and we'll talk Eagles. I'm not going to sit here and hijack my entire show for my own purposes. But it is heavy baseball tonight. It is heavy, heavy baseball. And the first question on my mind, and we're going to kind of knock this out and then go back to it, is the Phillies. The Phillies. 2 straight seasons they dangled the carrot. 2 straight seasons they took us on an emotional roller coaster ride. And are they, at year 3 of this, are they a World Series champion? Baseball is one of them sports where it's damn near to predict what's going to happen in March, in October. But I wrote an article a few days ago, and I've been writing a lot of articles for the network over the past month and a half, spotlighting players on this Phillies team, talking about their ups, their downs, their projections. And the last article I wrote, the last one I wrote was basically about the team. And I want to know that I kind of, the theme of the article of that last one, the theme of that team article was essentially the expectation level is through the roof. There's everybody, and again, I mentioned it in the article. I think I mentioned it on the social media post. If anybody from outside of the city of Philadelphia asks a Phillies fan what your expectation is, and if you as a Phillies fan begin to kind of wax poetic and try to we got to let the chips fall where they may, and blah, we got to get this, we got to get, no, don't do that. Please be true to yourselves. Tell them it's championship or bust, man. I mean, that's what it is. There's no other expectation in this town about this Phillies baseball team, regardless of whether or not they are a World Series title team. Nobody thinks that, or nobody would be satisfied this year, especially after the last 2 years, if we don't walk away with the Commissioner's Trophy here in about 6 months. So please, I'm giving a PSA, and actually I'm going to do 2 PSAs tonight, one a little bit later on, but PSA, if you're going to be a Phillies fan this year, which most of us are, and if you're going to be a proud Phillies fan, which most of us are, when asked the question, what are your expectations of your baseball team in 2024? Don't lie. Don't try to act smart or sound smart. Tell them championship or bust. If they don't win a World Series, I'm going to be pissed. Now, is it justified to think that? Of course it is, based on the last 2 seasons, based on how we got where we got last year and the year before that. It is most definitely justified. Is it a guarantee that we're going to get back there? No. And I think a lot of people are looking at what's coming out of Clearwater. And yes, it is spring training. It is what it is. It's not the gauge. Scott Kingerly, Dominic Brown, we can go down a list of players that kind of got us all excited about spring training and then did absolutely nothing at the major league level. There's some issues down there. There were some issues. There was a virus that ran rampant through the Philly clubhouse and decimated the team's health throughout the majority of spring training. There's been issues with some of the players that we're banking on to have great seasons to lead us to World Series glory. They didn't hit a lick down there in Clearwater. And there's some issues with some younger players that have got roster spots that might not have necessarily deserved them. There's some pitching issues as well. Injuries. It's not as clear as a lot of people want to kind of wish it away or wish it to be clear. I mean, we cannot fast forward from now till October. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We got to go through the steps of this, and it's going to be a bumpy ride. I mean, it always is, but I think, and that's another thing that I think Phillies fans are having problems kind of dealing with. Now on Thursday, rain or shine, if the game happens, that plays the bank. Celebrating its 20th season, by the way, for those of you out there who are marking away your life by these things, like I am. Citizen Bank Park is 20 years old. Yeah, so that means I'm 20 years older than it was when it opened. But Citizen Bank Park will open its doors on Thursday, hopefully, and if the game is a go, in the rain, in the shine, in the snow, wherever it might be, if it's a go, the place is going to be packed, as rightfully so as it should be. But then, of course, it'll all kind of balance itself out as we go through the very cold month of April and May and whatnot. But remember, it's April, or actually it's March. Remember that. Stay focused on that. And it's a long 162-game marathon. It's a beautiful season. It's a beautiful season, but it's got its ups and its downs and its roundabouts. So we're going to get kind of deep into the Phillies tonight. Soto is bad now. Now, but he better not be. I mean, come on. We're going to talk some Flyers as well, as the Flyers had themselves a really interesting, good week. I mean, I think if you kind of look at everything holistically, to include the Sean Couturier benching and the wins against some of the teams they beat last week. Last night was not a good game. I did the post game last night, and it was hard for me to get interested or excited about anything that happened on the ice yesterday. It was one of the most lifeless, I don't care about efforts I've ever seen in a long time from a hockey team. But we're still in this. The Flyers are still pushing towards a playoff spot. We're going to get into some Flyers, and then maybe if we have time, I'm going to give you my PSA. I'll probably give you my PSA right off the bat because I don't want to forget about it as we move through the show. But let's get things kicked off, shall we? Let's get it started the way we do every week on the program, and that is your day in Philadelphia sports history. And tonight, your day in Philadelphia sports history is brought to you by the newest sponsor of the Fighting's Final, the Streetlight Kitchen and Bar, 5400 Fern Boulevard in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, the Holiday Inn and Suites at the Delbrook Event Center. These guys are going to be our main sponsors, the Fighting's Finals main sponsors this year, and we are going to be doing a series of pre- and post-game live broadcasts from the Streetlight Kitchen and Bar, and the first one will be April 7th. The Phillies Nationals is the game that we're going to be doing that pre- and post-game from. Looking forward to it. Another wrinkle into the Fighting's Final this year. We want to welcome the Streetlight, the people from the Streetlight, and we are looking forward to a great partnership, at least through this season. So yeah, that is going to be our first live A series of them. There'll be multiple ones throughout the season. So if you don't make it on April 7th, which you should, because you get to meet me, because I am on the call that day with me and Al. So you'll be able to get to meet me that day, as well as earlier today if you show up around, I don't know what time they're doing it, but P&M and the AM is also going to be doing live show from there as well that day. So a big EOP day on April 7th down there at the place. So let's get into our day in Philadelphia sports history. On this day in 1981, that's right, 81, the Philadelphia Phillies apparently swapped broadcasters in essence, right? So the Phillies traded rookie and former third-round pick Bob Walk. He was a pitcher. They traded him to the Pittsburgh Pirates. To the Braves for the Sarge, Gary Matthews. This might be more of the Gary Matthews Day trade. I don't know if it's this broadcaster angle. I'm kind of still trying to wrap my head around it. But anyway, yeah, Gary Matthews was traded from the Braves to the Phillies. Bob Walk was traded to the Phillies to the Braves. Now, Gary Matthews, of course, would go on and have a very, very good career as a Philadelphia Philly before I believe he was traded to the Cubs towards the end of his career. And then he would return later on and become a broadcaster for the Phillies. Bob Walk would scratch out a decent career as well. He would play for the Braves and then end up going to Pittsburgh, and that's where he kind of had the bulk of success of his career. And then he would go on and become a broadcaster for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So in some roundabout way, the Phillies ended up trading a future broadcaster for another future broadcaster, really dip it into the obscure for our day in Philadelphia sports history. But that happened on this day in 1981. So Gary Matthews was traded to the Phillies for Bob Walk. They both would go on to become future broadcasters, one for the Phillies and one for the Pirates. So, yes, we go to no lengths on this program to provide you the most up-to-date and relevant Philadelphia sports facts and history. So there you go, and that is your day in Philadelphia sports history. All right, I guess it's time to do the PSA. Well, let's. I got a comment here. Let me get to that. Does Quez Dropkins is going for the Eagles? Yeah, I saw that. Yet another Howie Roseman draft pick bites the dust. And again, I will talk Eagles. If you bring it up, I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to bring it up. So you guys can bring it up, and I will definitely talk about it. But I kind of want to gravitate away from the Eagles tonight, as more pressing issues in my sports mind are happening around the city of Philadelphia than Howie Roseman's implosion of this football team. So, but again, I'm not going to shy away from it. You want to talk about it, I will talk with you. But yes, Quez Watkins, an Eagle, no more. Woohoo. We got an older version of him and an older version of Julio Jones and Parker. So, boom. Whatever. Let's just let that roll. But Darth Pooh, Jake Cave is proof all heroes wear capes. Good luck, bro. I hope you're being facetious about that because, as I mentioned yesterday on our Fighting Spinal preview show, the image of Jake Cave and him ending our season last year will be ultimately burned into my mind. And I had to be reminded by Big Al that it wasn't Jake Cave's fault that he failed in one of the bigger moments of the season. It was apparently Dave Dombrowski's fault for having him on the team in the first place. You know what? I am not very keen on passing the buck. I'm not. I'm a big accountability kind of guy. I really am. And yes, Dave Dombrowski does hold some accountability, and his job, things might be getting a little hot for him this year too if we cannot seal the deal. But Jake Cave went up there and he was the ultimate. He failed to deliver. All I needed was a single. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, a very uninspiring Philadelphia Philly career after 1 year is over. Jake Cave is officially a Colorado Rocky for some cash considerations. So, Jake Cave is on his way to Denver. Maybe he'll do better out there, man, hitting in that high altitude of Denver, Colorado. And then, of course, bringing up that he's got a 2.0 WAR, better than Rojas and Pache by a long shot. Yes, we're going to get into that. Absolutely going to get into that here in a little bit because, again, you trade a left-handed bat off your bench. Granted, it's Jay Cave, and then they do what they do with the roster today. But we'll get into all that here momentarily. But let's pivot back to our PSA. I'm going to give you a little bit of personal information about me. And I don't like doing that because I don't want you people, stalking me. Because God knows you would. I'm from Mayfair. I grew up in Mayfair. I grew up right on the border of Mayfair and Tacony in Northeast Philly, right? Proudly. I had a great childhood. Grew up I'm a child of the 80s. Had fun, went to Catholic school my entire life up through high school. Went to St. Leo's Elementary, which is no longer anything anymore down there in Tacony. And then I went to Father Judge High School up there in Mayfair. Go Crusaders, right? Judge 91. So here's the deal. Last week, Father Judge announced that they were discontinuing their annual Thanksgiving Day football tradition of playing Judge's public school rival, Lincoln, for as long as I can remember. And again, I think it went back into the 70s, maybe 80s or whatever. But as long as I can remember, we do the city series in the Catholic League. Public League will do a kind of a game on Thanksgiving, and it's all over the area. It's not just in Philadelphia. It's out there in Chester, Bucks, Montgomery, Delco. They do it all. And our rival, Judge's rival, was Lincoln. And on Thanksgiving Day, right? Thanksgiving Day football in Philadelphia. Is that one of the more Philadelphia things? High school football on Thanksgiving Day morning is such a Philadelphia thing. It's one of the things that people seemingly forget about talking about that makes this town what it is when it comes to sports, when we have something like that to look forward to. Well, in my case, and this is not across the board, my school, my alum, decided to discontinue their tradition to play Lincoln on Thanksgiving Day football. And I guess both schools agreed to it, and they're not going to do it anymore. Now, Judge is going to do something different. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't care because what they've done in this situation is disgraceful. It's an embarrassment. The city of Philadelphia should be held accountable. The school, both schools should be held accountable. And then the Archdiocese of Philadelphia as well should be held accountable to take away such a great tradition, take away such great memories that I had going to that event as a teenager, great memories that I had. Because you got to understand, what the night before Thanksgiving is traditionally the night you kind of run the streets with your boys and your girls, depending on how old you are. And trust me, I was into that very, very, very young. But the next day, before you break to go to your families, you all met at the football field at like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and you watched the game. Yeah, and there was a lot of smack talk going back and forth. I get it. And I understand what society is today. And I understand people take it way too far today. I get all that. But to fail to one like slight brush and then wipe it all out because of all that is disgraceful. It's part of what's ruining this country. It's part of what has ruined this society. Instead of trying to find a way to get it to happen as safe as possible, you're just going to discontinue it. I'm sorry. I think it hurts. It hurts because not necessarily for me anymore. I'm too old for that anymore, right? But the generations of kids that are going to come up behind me or have come up behind me, and then they're going to come up behind them, are never going to experience something like that. The community that brought together, the community that was part of. And if you're a fan of a public league team, or you're a fan or alumni of a Catholic league team or a public league team that's still doing this, or public league versus public league, depending on where you're at, if you're still doing it, hold on to it. Remember, it can be taken away. And it was taken away from me and thousands of Father Judge and Lincoln alumnus. It's been taken away from us, and Father Judge and Lincoln students. It's been taken away. And if you are a fan of a community that has that and still participates in that rivalry, hold on to it and fight for it, because they can take it away. Don't let the bastards take it away. Don't let them take it away, because it's wrong. It's wrong on so many levels. But that was my PSA today. Fight, rage against the machine, fight against the coming of the light. Don't let the bastards win. Take it back. Don't let them take it away from you. Fight for what you love. Fight for what's right. Fight for the community that event fostered, and fight for the good memories that event has in your own mind, because that's all you're going to have left at the end of the day is memories. And now they're taking them away. So don't let the son of a bitches and the bastards take that stuff away from you. Fight to keep it. Shame on the city of Philadelphia. Shame on the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Shame on Father Judge, and shame on Abraham Lincoln High School in Northeast Philly and Mayfair for taking away a great tradition on Thanksgiving. Shame on you. So there it is. There's Matty B's public service announcement for the folks who are listening. If you're not in Philadelphia or didn't grow up in Philadelphia and you have no idea what I'm talking about, go ahead and Google it up and you'll get the history and you'll figure out all that Thanksgiving Day stuff on your own. But yeah, just bad from a lot of different points. So Bryce Harper days away. Bryce Harper days away from opening day. Yeah, and his back still hurts, is what I've been told. Dropped. Am I still in Mayfair? Why? Are you going to come looking for me? Maybe. Maybe I'm in Mayfair. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I split my time between Mayfair and someplace else. But yes, I am still active in the Mayfair region. Not necessarily where I grew up anymore. I'm a little upper Mayfair now. But yeah, I'm kind of in and out of there. So that's all I'm gonna talk about that. Mother-in-law taught at Washington. Hey, listen, man, Steve, I know you know what I'm talking about. It's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing that they took that stuff away from us. It really is. If everyone moves out of the neighborhood, who's left to carry on the traditions you remember? Well, no one moved out. That's just it. Everyone's still there, but there were some safety concerns, safety issues, and I get those things are not. I'm not saying you take those lightly, but you know what? Then put extra security in. You know, I don't know what the hell the cops in this town do anymore. Anyway, my father was a cop for 30 years, and he probably is rolling around in his grave to see what's happened to the police department in this city. All right, get some extra people on. Hire your own private security. Do something. Hell, the tuition that the kids are paying to go to judge, you can afford some extra armed security on game day. All right, I get it, man. I understand the public safety issues. I do. But that's not how you fix public safety, by letting the thugs win, by letting the criminals win and just doing away with the event. No, you say, you know what? I don't care if you're going to come and try to mess this up. We're going to fight back, and we're going to keep our events to where they need to be. So it's cowardice. It's given into the wokeness, and I'm going to say it. It's given into the wokeness of this society to get away, to take away an event like that. So, horrible. Horrible. Huh? Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Matty, you can tear a building down, but you can't erase the memory. Yeah, well, you could. But the problem is, Steve, once I die, which I don't know when it's going to be, and once the people that have come in front of me die and some of the ones that had come behind me die, and the memory of that dies along with us, there's no one to pass it on to. There's no one. After a while, our bloodline will stop, and then that's it. There's no memory of Thanksgiving Day football if you were a student at Father Judge or a student at Lincoln. There's no more of that, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So, yeah. Hey, what's going on, Matty B. Dave? How you been, man? How you been? What do you think Embiid will be back in the lineup? When do I think Embiid will be back in the lineup? Probably in about 2 weeks, which will mean absolutely nothing for the Sixers because it's going to take him 6 weeks to play himself back into shape, which, of course, the season will be over by then. Sixers, you heard it here. Don't talk much about the Sixers either, but I'm going to make a bold prediction about the Sixers. The Sixers will lose in the play-in round. You heard it here first. The Sixers will lose in the NBA play-in round to even get into the playoffs. They will not advance into the playoffs. They will lose in some way or form in the play-in round. So that's my Sixer prediction for the rest of the season. Let's go on now back to the Phillies. So the Phillies are going to be added here in a couple days. It is the 141st version of the Philadelphia Phillies. They are coming allegedly pissed off, hungry, disgraced, embarrassed about what happened to them last year at home in a complete implosion at the hands of the Arizona Diamondbacks. They made little to one or two external moves that might move the needle a little bit for this team. Whit Merrifield, I think that's going to be a really good signing for this team as we kind of progress through the season, especially when we get into the October postseason. I think that's a definite October move. But other than that, the only real big-time moves the Phillies made were internally by signing one of their own free agents in Aaron Nola to a 7-year deal, seemingly locking him down in pinstripes forever, and then taking the Yamamoto money that they failed to sign him with, and then giving Zach Wheeler his contract extension, thus locking up a very potent and a very capable 1-2 duo at the top of our rotation, at least for the next 4 years, barring injury. So when we look at the starting rotation, well, I guess we'll start with pitching first. When we look at the starting rotation, I put out some numbers yesterday. I'm going to throw them back out, kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. The starting rotation last year for the Phillies, was it the worst overall? Was it the worst in all of baseball? No, it was not. Did they do their job? Listen, it was funny how it kind of just worked itself out. But the rotation and the staff, not necessarily the rotation in the bullpen, but both, as a staff, struck out close to 1,500 batters last year, 1,454. It was a 9-a-game average clip that our starting rotation was striking out people. They only walked 470. That's less than 3 a game. I can live with that. Absolutely live with that. They gave up 1,395 hits, so they gave up close to 1,400 hits. That averaged out to almost 9 a game. I really can't live with that. They surrendered 185 home runs. 1.1 a game. They allowed 716 runs for 6.4 a game. That's a little too high. But those numbers are not necessarily doom and gloom. The team won 90 games. So I am not necessarily going to poo-poo the top of the rotation, especially of the Philadelphia Phillies. I think it's a competent duo. I think it's an October-tested duo. Obviously, the book is still out on Nola. We saw a better postseason version of Nola last year until later on in the NLCS before he kind of had that chink in his armor in Game 6. But still, he didn't pitch well in that game, but he gave the Phillies a shot. The offense just wasn't doing anything anymore. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the 1-2 of Nola Wheeler. There's nothing really that much. There's nothing better out there. Either they're going to spend $128,000 million on Nola, or they're going to spend it on a Blake Snell. They're going to spend it on a Jordan Montgomery, which I know the rumors out there persist that he is on his way here. And I know that wouldn't be such a bad thing because we're going to get to talking to why heading into the season. It might not be a bad thing, but I'm okay with those two. Now, the problem, though, as you might think or know, is when we go deeper into the rotation, it gets a little bit more cloudy, right? Ranger Suarez. I don't think Ranger's a 3. I don't. I like Ranger. I think he's a good pitcher. I don't think he's a 3. I think he's a 4. He's a prototypical 4. Every year, though, he seems to get better. He's kind of growing and growing and growing into his role as a starter. Last year, I thought he did I didn't think he was much more than a 5. And then all of a sudden, he kind of took that step last year and really, especially in the postseason, he was really that guy for the Phillies in the postseason. So Rangers are 3. I've gone to bed with worse thoughts on my mind, and I've gone to bed with better thoughts on my mind. I guess it's really kind of up the Ranger to once again prove me wrong or prove that he's a competent number 3. At 4, I guess what we're doing to start the season now is that Walker is down with shoulder stiffness. He'll begin the season on the IL, and they're going to go with Spencer Turnbull, who was one of their free agent pickups, a cast-off from the Detroit Tigers, who this kid has had, he's got electric stuff, but he's had injury issues throughout his entire young career. And he's going to get an opportunity now, which, the Phillies seem to have a knack for doing this every year, of giving somebody an opportunity. And it sometimes works out. It actually does work out most of the time. He's going to be kind of inserted as your number 4. Now, I've heard some talk about he's your 5th. I don't think Turnbull's a 5 because I don't think Sanchez is a 4. So maybe we'll call them 4A, 4B. I don't know, but or 5A, 5B. Yeah. And then, of course, Christopher Sanchez, who is going to kind of start the season out as your 5th starter. Sanchez, for all you want to say about him, and it's justified, he's been kind of he had a lot of expectations at one point. He's been very unspectacular up to this point. Injury issues, velocity and control problems. But for what you want to say about Sanchez, remember last year, our starting rotation was a mess in the back end for without almost well over a half a season. I remind people, we started the season with Bailey Falter and Matt Strahm in the back end of our rotation last year because of injury issues. But all of a sudden now we're going to move, and then so Sanchez shows up in July, and after finally dealing with some injury problems at back 5, and that really locked down that rotation for that stretch run. I think Christopher Sanchez doesn't get as much credit as he should get in helping the Phillies get to the playoffs. Now, of course, in the playoffs, whatever, but Sanchez was a key contributor, in my opinion, and I had a front row seat of it, of stabilizing the back end of the rotation and helping the Phillies get to the playoffs. So heading into the season with him as your 5, I'm okay with based on the body of work. But that's going to be your starting rotation. And on Thursday, it'll be Spencer Strider versus Zach Wheeler to kind of kick it all off. And is that a World Series winning rotation? I mean, pitching still wins championships, right? I'm still with that. But with that being said, we're not going to pitch 5 pitchers in the postseason. It's a 4-man rotation. If we're going to we stayed away from, for the most part last year, bullpen games. We did. We did better, I thought, in 23 than we did in 22. And we stayed away from them pretty much, I think, only once it happened in the playoffs. That's positive for me, right? But the question is the Phillies starting rotation starting this season, is that a World Series winning rotation? Is that a rotation you're going to throw down your mortgage payment and make a bet that the Phillies are going to win a World Series based on that group? I don't know. It's pretty solid 1 and 2. A lot of question marks after that. A lot of potential after that, but that's all it is, potential. Now, Steve brings up an interesting point right here. How long until Abel is penciled in? August? Mick Abel, who had himself a really decent spring, excelled in his opportunity with the Phillies and really excelled in his, what did they call it, the spring showcase series that they had, where all the prospects of all the teams kind of had a little mini tournament. He pitched well for the Phillies in that. Mick Abel's an interesting study here. The 2020 draft, first round selection by the Phillies, will now be entering his 5th year in the Phillies minor league system. I'm pretty certain the Phillies had him in the major leagues by this point. And then obviously with the acceleration or the expectations surrounding Andrew Painter before his injury, Mick Abel kind of got lost along the way. But now that Painter's down, all for this year, as he continues recovering from Tommy John, Mick Abel and Griff McGarry, to a lesser extent, really kind of just came right back up into the forefront. And neither one of them, or McGarry still is having control problems and velocity problems. He's back down in the minors. I don't know if McGarry even ever gets to the majors. But Mick Abel is an interesting case point. Are the Phillies' hand with Abel, is that going to get forced in 2024? Are the Phillies going to have no choice but to bring him up in 2024, whether or not he's ready or not? When you look at the depth of our rotation, we've already taxed it out. We have. One injury before the season began has already stretched out our rotational depth of the 2024 Phillies. Spencer Turnbull was that depth. He was that safety net. And that's before we even threw a pitch in the regular season. It's already been used. What does that say? We were relatively healthy last year. Are we going to be relatively healthy this year? I don't know. But we better be, because I don't know what's behind currently what we have. And Mick Abel is an interesting name to keep an eye on as he kind of started. I think he's with I think he's starting out with the Iron Pigs. So Steve asked, when do we pencil him in August? You know what, Steve? I would think that the Phillies would want to give him a look at some point this season. And I think they'd want to give him a look at his best point of the season versus when they need him. I don't know. August could be right. September could be right. Friggin' May could be right at this point. Who knows? But more to follow on the Mick Abel thing. But so the starting rotation, is it World Series quality or is it not? I don't know. I really don't. Are there better rotations out there than the Phillies? Yes. Are there worse rotations out there for the Phillies? Yes. But I guess it comes down to, are there better battle-tested rotations out there than the Phillies? Zach Wheeler has been absolutely dominant in the last 2 postseasons. He has been everything that you want an ace to be. And finally, he's getting the ace billing and the ace that he's due to be receiving by starting off the season. So that is always a positive there. But are they deep enough? Are they deep enough to carry a run? Are they deep enough to win a championship? Pitching still wins it. Do the Phillies have it in 2024? It's the same they had in 23. It's the same they had in 22. They didn't finish the job in those 2 years. So it's the same product. Are we expecting different results? So that's the Phillies starting rotation, and that's my opinion about them. And Steven also says he has such low expectations for the Phillies this year. You're lying. All right, Steve, I'm gonna call you out right now. You're a liar. You're a liar. I said this at the top of the show. Be true to yourself, man. Everybody's got high expectations. There's nobody can look me in the face and tell me that you have low expectations for the Phillies. Come on, man. You guys are killing me, man. You're killing me. Nah, man. Nah. Let's talk now some, he says Marsh, Bohm, Stott, Rojas all have to take on greater hitter burdens and take some of the same off Casty and JT. Otherwise, it might be a long year. Yeah, I think that's a very fair point, and I think consistency this year is what the Phillies need to have. We talked about this again on yesterday's show. You know, Castellanos, and we'll talk about him first, really had a bounce back year that he needed to have in 23. You know, he carried the hitting in the early part of the season when things weren't going well for this team, and nobody else was hitting but him. He did kind of cool off, but then he heated back up. Then he cooled off. Then he heated back up in the playoffs, and then he cooled off. So, yeah, I agree. I think Castellanos, but I think he answered the bell of being that guy last year, and he took on that role the best he could. As far as Marsh, Bohm, Stott, I'm not even going to talk about Rojas yet, but as far as those three, they need to continue to take their next steps. Somebody on the show yesterday made a bold prediction that Bryce Stott's going to win a batting title. I don't know if that's this year, but those steps need to be continued to be taken by these players. They were kind of lost in it last year. I think Bohm had a really consistent year at the plate. I think Stott had his moments. Marsh, again, had his moments, but they need to bring it all together in 2023 because there are now going to be centerpieces of this offense. And we're going to talk about how some of the pieces of this offense currently are not really where they need to be right now. So I agree with Steve's point there offensively with the Phillies heading into the season when it comes to certain batters. Let's take a look at the offense real quick, and let's take a look back at the offense. 220 team home runs, 794 runs for about 5 runs a game. They banged out over 1,400 hits for about almost 9 a game. But on the flip side of all that, they struck out almost 1,500 times last season as a team, over 9 a game. They left 1,098 runners on base for almost 7 a game. And then, of course, the vaunted runners in scoring position batting average, they were 358 for 1,046 with runners in scoring position for a 266 batting average. That got elevated a little bit at the end of the season when the Phillies were playing the likes of the Mets, teams that have kind of laid down for them. Phillies had clinched. They were facing all kinds of different types of crazy pitchers. That stat got elevated, and of course, that runners in scoring position batting average went nose down again in the postseason. So those are the things that I think Steve's talking about being more consistent about, and that is going to be the name of the Phillies offense in 2024, especially from players like Marsh, Bohm, and Stott. They got to be able to hit to all fields. They got to be able to move runners along. They got to be able to generate offense themselves while on the base pads. They got to be able to lay down the sack bunt from now and again. Can somebody please lay a bunt down again? The suicide squeeze is still legal in baseball. We need to find a way to generate runs without the use of the home run. We saw it kind of bite us in the ass against Arizona. But that's where players like Stott, Marsh, and Bohm are going to come into play because we already know what we got from the others. We already know what Schwarber, JT, and Harper are. They're power hitters, and that's what they're going to go up there trying to be. And then I don't know if there's any way of getting away from that. But there are other players in this offense that are not necessarily pedigreed on power, need to be contact hitters. They need to be those scrapers, those muckers, those grinders. They need to be the ones that kind of move runners along, put themselves in scoring position, put themselves in a position to score runs. And yeah, that's what has to happen. That did not happen, especially in the postseason when they were up there all trying to swing for the game-winning home run in the first inning. And that's what was our downfall. So I agree with Steve on that. Absolutely, 100%. Little Griffin says, I'm a big Eagles fan. 2024 season better. Fly, Eagles pay Hassan, draft Georgia and Alabama tomorrow's birthday. Well, happy birthday. I think the Eagles will win 6 games this year. Yeah, I'm sorry. I do. I know. Yeah, I do. How long until live? Yeah, we talked about that. All right, and then Steve says he's got more hopes of Painter coming back early than another NLCS appearance. To be honest, not sure how much longer an aging core can take you back. Well, the Phillies are betting on it at least for one more year. Actually, I think they're betting on it for at least through 2027 when all these players are pretty much going to come up due to be paid. This is what it is, Steve. You have your trepidations, and they're not off base. There are some concerns. We walked off the field in 2023 unable to finish the job. Well, we're walking back on the field in 2024 as the same team, literally. So what changes there? What are the indications that are going to provide you the, oh yeah, okay, well now they're going to figure it out. So no, they're valid points, Steve. They are absolutely valid points. Shohei Ohtani set for a 2025 homecoming as Dodgers slate the open season against Cubs in Japan. Well, maybe he'll throw some money down on the Cubs. Good for Shohei. There you go. Maybe he'll have a new interpreter by then too. No matter what happens, Dancing on My Knee needs to go. That ship has sailed. Wrong song for the wrong team. Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%, Steve. That song needs to go. Let's go pivot back to the pitching and the bullpen, because that's where I find the very, very interesting, right? That's what I think is the most interesting part of the season heading into this year. The Phillies bullpen. Again, let's call it what it is. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating to deal with a bullpen that operates under this closer by committee. This analytical strategy to kind of, instead of what your gut feels or assigning roles to certain relief pitchers, turning the ball over to the guy that has a better, statistical advantage over the next three in the lineup. I mean, I don't agree with it either. But that's what it is here. And the Phillies lack a true closer. Or do they? Do we even know if they lack a true closer? Because no one seems to be given the role as closer. So the bullpen, as of right now, is Ortiz. It's going to be Ortiz, Strahm, Alvarado, Dominguez, Brogdon, Hoffman, and Marte. That is your bullpen pretty much to start the season. Orion Kerkering is going to begin the year, not on IL, but he's going to begin the year rehabbing from an injury that he had, or an illness that pretty much dogged him all through spring. Dylan Covey is also starting the season out there on the IL for the Phillies. So the bullpen's going to come in with, your back end, I guess, is Sir Anthony, Soto, and Alvarado. Your front end is looking like, and again, this is how I would do it. Marte, Hoffman, Ortiz, and then the middle is Strahm, right? That's your middle guy. I know they're going to move Hoffman into high leverage situations, which I don't see. I don't see him with that stuff. I see him as more of an innings kind of guy, not a guy that's going to come in and lock down the ninth inning or the eighth inning for you. But the Phillies persist on doing that. They did it last year in the postseason, and it friggin' pissed me off. But yeah, there's your bullpen to start. Is that group better than is that group better than a group that consisted of Craig Kimbrell last year? Say what you want about him. He was pretty solid in the regular season. I think he was misused in the postseason. I think it was analytics that kind of doomed him in the postseason, and then Rob Thompson as well. So, but he's gone. So everybody got their wish. Craig Kimbrell is no more. But is the bullpen better off for it? I don't know. I really don't know. What are the additions that they added? Kerkering, who's not going to start the season out with the team. Unproven. Velocity. Fire. He's got a lot of stuff going on that's really good, and he probably will at some point in his career be a closer. I don't know where that will be. If he's still here, it won't be, but Kerkering is going to inherit that Craig Kimbrell role, and that's how you build him for tomorrow is you play him today. So is he the next Kerkering? I don't know. We'll see, but that's your bullpen starting the season. Now it brings me to the most interesting point of the season so far that we start out 20 years this year. Yep, the bank is 20 years old this year. I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. That one dude that overachieved for me in the postseason was Strahm. I was stunned at how he helped shut the door on the Braves. No, I like Strahm. I think Strahm was pretty solid all year, no matter what the Phillies asked him to do. Don't forget, Steve, they asked him to start in the beginning, and then he was coming on to relieve. So I thought Strahm was pretty solid. And of course, the Phillies did too, as they gave him that extension. So I like Strom. I think he's a good pitcher. He's a big, avid baseball card collector. So I know that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but I like him. I think he's a good piece of that bullpen if used properly in that middle relief type role. So we're on to, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the roster. Right. So today, pretty much, the Phillies have announced that, everybody that we thought is going to make this team has made it, with the exception of two people that I didn't think were both going to make it, and that's Johan Rojas and Christian Pache. Both have been added to your opening day roster. Jake Cave, of course, was traded. David Dahl was sent to the minors. Cody Clemens was sent to the minors. So the roster's set, and I understand it, and I guess as a avid or intelligent Phillies fan, I can take it that our outfield will be Rojas in center, Marsh in left, and Castellanos in right. And then Whitfield, Sosa, Stubbs, and Pache will make up your bench. Now, I think the bench is better, just by the addition of Whit Merrifield. I really do. But unfortunately, I don't think Whit Merrifield is going to spend much time on the bench. I think eventually he's going to take over somewhere, or he's going to be constantly being rotated around the diamond because he can play any position but catcher. But he is, I guess, starting the season out as a bench piece. Now, of course, Rojas out there in center field. I think it came down to defense, basically. The guy is an elite level defender. He can catch anything that's hit at him. And that's something that I guess the Phillies value more than what they value with his bat, because the guy can't hit a lick. When he first came up here, and everybody wants to bag on this guy, and I understand why, but no one really understands where he came from. Rojas never played AAA. The Phillies called him up from AA right to the majors. He bypassed AAA baseball. He never played at the highest level of minor league ball. He went from AA right to the majors. And when he came here last summer, he was hitting at one point. Matter of fact, it wasn't a huge sample size, but he did finish batting over 300. Of course, what happened to him in the postseason happened to him, where he couldn't hit anything, and he's been labeled. Now, the big story in the winter was, I'm working out with Justin Crawford. I'm working out, down there, wherever I'm working out with this guy. I'm trying to get in shape. I'm trying to be this, that, and the other thing. Then he comes out this spring and he bats 156 in 45 plate appearances. He's 7 hits, 1 double, 2 triples, 4 RBIs, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. And that's what he ends up doing for the spring. But that, again, I don't think that's really what the case was with him. I think it was more of his glove. And the Phillies value that more than anything else right now. So he makes the roster. Now, on the other hand, Christian Pache, who I thought had a pretty interesting, decent spring, ended up batting 250. He had 28. He only had 28 at bats. Ended up with 14 hits. So, I mean, I thought he had a pretty decent spring. Is Christian Pache, is he really the kind of, are the Phillies, bringing both of them on the roster in the hopes that one of them works out? And is Christian Pache the safety net for Johan Rojas? Both center fielders. I would imagine that's what they're doing here. But yeah, Rojas and Pache are going to be on your opening day roster, along with Merrifield, Stubbs, and Sosa to round out your bench. And that's how the bench is going to look. And, of course, JT and Stubbs are going to be your catching duo. JT, one more year he's starting to sound like Jake Taylor. One more year in the summer. One more year in the sun, man. Got one more year. So there you have it, man. That's pretty much your Phillies rotation heading into this opening day in a couple of days. Ellis, good evening. How are you? Steve says, I hope someone gets in Kirk's ear and tells him to flip the frequency on the fastball and slider. I take it you're referring to the overuse of the pitch. What are you referring to, Steve? Because obviously what we saw from him in the postseason was everything was up. Everything was up. There was no break on anything. Everything was up and over. I think that had more to do with the fact that he wasn't ready for the moment he was put in. But I really like what he brings to the table, and I think one day he's going to be a straight traditional closer. I really do. If we were serious about winning it all, there needs to be a major bench upgrade besides Witt. Doesn't need to be now, but it should be by August. Steve, I'm actually on your side here. I really am. But the more and more I think about the bench, the more and more with the advent of the DH, with the fact that we don't necessarily use pinch hitters anymore, right? Unless it's a situation where we have Rojas, whatever. I don't know if we need more than one. hitter off the bench. Dave Dombrowski, who I'm not the biggest fan of anymore, he's starting to lose me a little bit. But you mentioned it. They got to have a utility infielder. So there's one spot off your bench. That's Sosa. They got to have a catcher, and that's another spot off your bench. That's Stubbs. That leaves 2 spots, and they're going to have to be outfielders. So unfortunately, a situation where you're looking at this thing holistically, one quality bat off the bench when it comes to it, other than the infielder, utility guy, and this catcher, that's really all what teams are able to do. Realistically, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't know. I think the bench was upgraded enough. Again, I would have felt a lot better if Whit Merrifield was the one step on the field in Game 7 of the NLCS with the season on his bat than I did with Jay Cave. So I'm going to give the Phillies this one. I really am. I'm going to give the Phillies this one to start the season. Yeah. No, me too. Trust me, Steve. It's crossed my mind. But there you go. So are the Phillies a 90-72 team? Are they an 88-74 team? Are they a 92-70 team? Your guess is as good as mine. Are they a division-winning team? Is this the year we take down the Braves? Do the Mets return to prominence and try to force the Phillies' hand? How are the Marlins going to be heading into this season? Do they repeat as a perennial playoff team? And then, of course, the Washington Nationals. How does the NL East look for you? When we look around the National League, the Dodgers loaded up with Ohtani. They loaded up with Yamamoto, who's unproven, yes. Gavin Lux is coming back, from his ACL injury a couple years ago or last year. Are they all in? Is that going to cause the Dodgers and Braves not to have their first-round meltdowns or second-round meltdowns as they had the last 2 seasons? Is the number 7 seed from the NL playoffs, are they going to continue to run the table and go to the World Series like they have the last 2 years? A lot of questions are going to have to be asked over there in the American League. Are we looking at the dawn of a Texas Ranger dynasty? That is a deep team. That is a real deep team, and they're adding 2 high-projected rookies into their lineup this year. Are we looking at the dawn of a Texas Ranger dynasty? Are the Astros going to rebound? Do the Yankees, with the addition of Juan Soto, and even though, Cole was hurt, how are they coming? I mean, they got expectations to return to the postseason and win things. This is the beautiful thing about this time of the year. Everybody's 0-0, and everybody thinks they're going to win a World Series. And unfortunately, it goes down to one team. Hopefully, it's ours. So baseball is upon us. It's a happy, happy, happy time of the year. Oh, man. Chris, how you doing? What do I hate more? Schwarbs at leadoff spot or Howie at GM? Interesting question. I don't know. That's a good one there, Chris. What do I hate more? Kyle Schwarber leading off or Howie Roseman as a GM? I don't know. You've got me stumped. I mean, Schwarber hit 48 home runs last year. At least he had some moments. Howie hasn't really had too many moments lately. I don't know. If I had to choose one to save my life, or if I had to say one over the other, I had to take one over the other to save my life, I would probably take Schwarber leading off. I would have to. I'm not. Listen, that's not a position I want to be in. I don't want to have to make that decision. But if I had to, if my life depended on it, I would probably say Schwarber leading off is what I would take over Howie as a GM. Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, that says that says a lot. Good question there, Dives. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a good question. I know the season just started. Yeah, I guess it has technically started for the Dodgers already. They've already played 2 games, but the Dodgers have some major question marks around Yamamoto and Ohtani. Guess $1 billion doesn't go as far as it used to. Listen, one good thing though about that, Steve, with Ohtani in the mix, that billion could become 2 billion, right? You get that roulette wheel spinning. Always bet on black. Boom. Hey, you never know. Ohtani might be actually what the Dodgers wanted to make them more money. You right? You never know. So I hear you. Yamamoto's going to go through his growing pains this year, and then maybe beyond. He is. But Ohtani, come on, he's still going to be in the running for MVP at the end of the day. And he's not going to pitch, but I think he's going to be an interesting DH. So there you have it, Phillies. And let's now kind of gravitate over to some of our sponsors here on the Edge of Philly Sports. Let's talk about David Cherry. If you have any workman's compensation, sorry about that, motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or criminal law questions, contact Dave Cherry at 610-565-0300 at www.cherryinjurylaw.com, and he will definitely do his best to try to help you out. Tell him EOP and Matty B sent you. Don't forget, if you're looking for those hard-to-find tickets for concerts, theaters, or sporting events, then Cherry Tickets is your place to go. Great prices, no hidden fees, sports, concert, and theater. Enter the promo code EOP10, save an additional 10%. That's Cherry Tickets at cherrytickets.com. And this is the event that you need to kind of clear on your calendar, because this is going to be, oh man, there it is. This is going to be something. May 25th, Dolan's Wiffle Ball Madness down there at 24 East Sellers Ave in Ridley Park. It's a great event. If you've never been, I highly recommend you going. It's free to be there. I believe if you want to get involved in the wiffle ball thing, there is a fee. I don't know how much it is, but and don't quote me on that. So, but your celebrity wiffle ballers this year are going to be returning Wiffle Ball Mania veteran Mickey Morandini and newcomer John Kruk. That's right. They will be there at Dolan's on May 25th, wiffle balling it up. So make sure you head on down to Dolan's in Delco and check that out. I may be there as well. I'm looking to clear some time to go down there and check that out, because I know we're going to broadcast from down there. EOP is, so maybe I'll go check it out. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I'll grace them with my presence. And then for all you Eagles fans out there, to include me, I am an Eagle fan. The Birds are taking over Brazil, and it looks like they're bringing along the Cleveland Browns to do that as well. Back here at the open up the 2024 season, and Philly Sports Trips got you covered. Head over to Philly Sports Trips, check out that offer, check out the trip to London this summer to see the Phillies and Mets. I believe it's sold out. But you can get, there's lots of other things going on Philly Sports Trips. So make sure you head over there, check out all that stuff post tick. All right. Last thing we're going to talk about tonight, and we're going to wrap it up, are your Philadelphia Flyers. Coming off of a week where they faced some interesting opponents. They had the Maple Leafs, the Hurricanes, the Boston Bruins, and the Florida Panthers. A 4-game killer stretch of games where the Flyers pulled out a 2-1-1 stretch against 4 perennial Stanley Cup contending teams. The effort yesterday against the Florida Panthers was not good. That was a little concerning. The Flyers also lost their captain for 2 games last week as he was benched, Jean Couturier, by the head coach. And still through all that adversity, they were able to pull out a positive week, still keeping themselves in the playoff race in the Metro Division in the Eastern Conference this season. The Flyers are 36-27-9, 81 points. That is 6 more points higher than they had all of last year. They are dealing with a lot of adversity. This team, through all this stuff that they've dealt with this year, all of it, to include the off-the-ice stuff. I mean, they're dealing with injuries up and down their defensive core. They've lost their starting goalie probably forever. They lost their top prospect because he didn't want to play here. All that, and then also they're trying to rebuild this team year one. They were able to kind of still be the way they are. It's actually remarkable, and still keep us involved. 10 games left in the regular season, and they are still fighting for a playoff spot. Regardless of how this season works out for the Flyers, the future looks certainly bright for this young core of players, and hopefully the right pieces are added as we move through the draft this summer and we move through free agency this summer. They can add some more scores, maybe add a veteran backup goaltender, and maybe kind of solidify some of this stuff, and we take that next step. But you gotta really, there's really nothing negative that I can see coming out of this season. Even the John Tortorella decision to bench Sean Couturier. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of benching your captain, but I don't know what's going on inside that clubhouse. I don't know what's going on inside that dressing room. I don't know if there was issues with his leadership style, if there was a message that John Tortorella wanted to send to him as the captain. The captains are treated differently. They are. That's just how it is. Leaders are. They're asked to do more, and they're asked to sacrifice more. That's what a leader is. That's what you inherit as a leader, and if you better be willing to do that. If not, don't be the leader. So I don't know exactly what's going on in that locker room with John Tortorella and Sean Couturier. It seems to have worked itself out. They are, he's back on the ice. So we'll see how that all pans out as we move forward the rest of the way. They need to change the overtime rules. If you blow a third period lead and lose, you shouldn't get a point, man, especially if you're a home team. Why not? You should. Oh, I see what you're saying. You should not get a point if you blow a third period lead. At least you're at home. Yeah, that's actually not that bad. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting point, Steve. I never thought of that. That's pretty good. Man, that's like draconian, man. Man, we were clamping it down. You guys thought I was tough. Don't let Steven be in charge, man. Holy crap. But yeah, so Flyers are going to make a push this week. We got you covered on the Flyers front as well. Yeah, because that's not going to stop either. I know the Fighting's finals kicking off, but we're not leaving the Flyers behind. I don't even have it up here. Okay, I don't have it up here, but it's there. We are doing the Flyers this year. Let me pull it up real quick because I know it's here. I know it's here. It's not. All right, so we are covering the Phillies or Flyers. I believe it's me and Mike tomorrow night for the Rangers, and then me and Al on Thursday, and then Mike and Pat on Saturday. There you go. See, I told you, I knew it. But yeah, we're going to cover the Flyers as well. So you're going to be seeing a lot of us, a lot of me, a lot of Mike, a lot of Pat, a lot of Al, a lot of us going forward. So I wouldn't have it any other way. Nice culture setting. Yeah, it has been. It absolutely has been. And April should be a very interesting month. But we got to get past March. Tomorrow night is the final game of that 7-game gauntlet. It's a huge one against a team that's also had our number for the last couple seasons. The Rangers were a superior team than the Flyers. I'm looking for a big showing tomorrow night at MSG. I think that if they go out and they battle the Rangers, and God forbid if they steal a win, it's going to go a long way and kind of like erasing what happened last night. And kind of getting this team back on the right track. I really want to see a playoff-like game from the Flyers tomorrow night. I really want to see them play it all out there and play like I've seen them play all season, not like I saw them play last night. So that's going to be, I think, the best game of the week tomorrow night, Flyers, Rangers, and Madison Square Garden. The final time the Flyers will play the Rangers, I think, this year. So make sure you're tuned in for that, and make sure you're tuned in for the Clear the Ice program after the game, as we will bring you all that and more. Folks, wow, a lot of stuff. Don't forget, I want to thank all our sponsors tonight. David R. Cherry, Sherry's Tickets, Dolan's Bar. Don't forget Wiffle Ball Mania. It's coming up on May 25th. Phillies Sports Trips, all what they have to offer. Our new sponsor for the Fighting's Final, the Streetlight. Don't forget April 7th. We're going to be there live, pre and post game. Here's your lineup for the Fighting's Final this week. It kicks off Thursday. And then, of course, Clear the Ice is also happening. I don't have the graphic. I was actually looking at it today, and I was like, yeah, it's already up there. I shouldn't have to worry about that. And I never even thought to check. So that's on me. I apologize. But we have you covered for Clear the Ice as well. All the written stuff we're doing, that I'm doing. We're gearing up for the NFL draft. Party on Broad is happening right now, so make sure you head over there and check them out. We got the NFL draft coming up. I've been dropping articles for breaking down Phillies prospects, Flyers prospects. I'm also dropping articles breaking down MLB draft prospects. We're going to cover the MLB draft this year. We're also going to cover the NHL draft this year. I started dropping some stuff on that. That'll be once a week on some of the projections that I think are going to happen in that. Lot going on. It ain't stopping. So just hop on the train, enjoy the ride. Folks, thank you very much for a great night. I will see you again when I see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your Philadelphia sports week. And what did they say? That is the news, and I'm out of here.